Join host Charisma Eve on a journey of self-discovery, empowerment, and unapologetic authenticity. In each episode, Charisma dives deep into conversations, exploring what it truly means to embrace oneself fully and live life with genuine charisma. From personal antidotes to interviews, Unapologetically Me is a space where vulnerability meets strength, where listeners are encouraged to celebrate their uniqueness and step into their power without reservation. Tune in for inspiring stories, practical tips, and a dose of unfiltered wisdom as Charisma Eve guides you towards embracing your most authentic self. It's time to own your truth and live unapologetically. And now your host, Charisma Eve.
Well, good evening, folks, and thanks for week 2 of Unapologetically Charisma Eve. I am Charisma Eve. Thank you for joining me, and I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me for the second week. Um, I am so excited once again about this whole podcast adventure. And last week, I talked a little bit about who I am and why I'm here. Um, and I am so grateful to be here. I'm grateful for the ability to be able to come before you and to share with you a little bit about who I am and what it is I want to talk to you about. So last week I just gave you a little bit about who I am and what it is that I have to share with you. This week, I want to talk to you about my illness. And I share with you with passion because I have had a journey for the last 11 years of multiple sclerosis. And this journey has been an interesting one and it has been a difficult one. In 2013, I was working as an educator with Empire Education Group, which is a cosmetology um, group, and I was teaching cosmetology, and I had been with them for I had been with them for 13 years, teaching something that I have a passion for, which I'll talk with you in weeks later about because I've been a cosmetologist since 1991 and I've been an educator since 1995. And I had been teaching for quite a while. And things had begun to happen in my body that, I mean, you know how you start to have things go on in your body, but you're not really certain about what it is that's going on with you, but you don't pay it any attention. I was in my early 40s and I didn't think anything about it, but um I continued to teach and pardon me if I'm walking around. Um I continued to teach and not think anything of it, just do what I do. So my husband and I, needless to say, we were we had been invited with some friends by some friends of ours to go horseback riding one weekend for their um, anniversary, and we had been invited to go with them, and so we did. And as we went with them horseback riding, I had never been, so I was quite excited. And so we were horseback riding with them, and I got on my horse, and we were riding, and I was in front of my girlfriend, and all of a sudden, something felt like it popped, and Tammy said, "Andrea, are you all right?" And I was like, "No." But we were like 20 minutes on the trail and you couldn't get off. It was one way in and one way out. And it was like an hour and 15-minute ride on the trail. But I had this big, beautiful horse that I was riding on, and I sing. So I began to sing to the horse. And as I began to sing to her, it gave me peace. And animals are very, um, they seem to know when something's going on with you. So we continued on through the rest of the trail, and as I um, got to the end of the trail, I couldn't move. They had to help me unmount, and this was July 30th, 2013. I'll never forget it. So moving forward, when we got home, my whole left side was it was like I was paralyzed. So anyway, that was that Sunday. I was like that Monday and that Tuesday. And I remember telling my son to take his shoe and hit me with it. And he's like, "Mama, I'm not going to do that." And so anyway, he took a bag of ice and rubbed it down my thigh. And I was numb. They took me to the emergency room and they thought I had had a stroke. So fast forward, they ran all of these tests, neurological tests, and they didn't know whether I had Sjogren's disease. They didn't know whether I had Parkinson's disease, because with multiple sclerosis, it fits in the category of 5 other diseases that they don't know whether you have. So I was in the hospital for 5, 6 days, and I felt like a guinea pig. And all of these doctors came into my room and they told me they thought I may have multiple sclerosis. And they asked me, they said, "Does anybody in your family have multiple sclerosis?" And I said, "No." I said, "If you'd asked me about cancer, heart disease, any of that, I'd said yes." And they told me, they said, multiple sclerosis is something that more white people have. And they said lupus is something that more black people have, which I had heard. But they continued to run more tests. They thought maybe I might have rheumatoid arthritis, which was another disease that fit into the whole family of the neurological disorders that multiple sclerosis fits into. So they finally did a spinal tap, which was the last test that they did that determined I did have multiple sclerosis. And that was in 2013. So that started my journey. So I got out of the hospital. I went back to work. Went back to work. And after I went back to work, um, it was a long journey because I would go back to work, and there were times when I would be working and I would just pass out. I'd be working. There was one time in particular, I was teaching hair cutting, and I had a pair of scissors in my hand, literally had a pair of scissors in my hand. And I was walking around my classroom and I was checking my students' haircuts on their mannequins, and went out, just lights out, fell out. And I think God that I didn't hurt one of them, nor did I hurt myself. When I came to, paramedics asked me if I knew what year it was, who the president was, and all of that. So they took me to the hospital, and I'd had an MS flare up, what's called a flare up. Let me go back to when I was in the hospital. So with multiple sclerosis, they find what's called myelin sheaths on your spine. They had found them on my spine, and they did MRIs on my spine. Then they did them on my brain, and they found that I had 20 lesions on my brain that were inflamed. That was why they kept me in the hospital. And here we are today, and those 20 lesions are still there on my brain. They just lie dormant. Now, I have what's called, there are different types of MS. I have what's called relapse and remitting. And right now, my MS is in remission. But at any time, it can go back into relapse. I take medication. I've been on several different types of medication. I've been on medication where I've had to give myself shots. I don't like that type. And, but I've had flare ups where I have passed out in my front yard, and my son has had to pick me up and bring me in the house. I've had flare ups where I was in, my husband took me to Red Lobster. And this was the same weekend. One day it was Friday. I flared up and Zacchaeus brought me in the house. And I thought I was okay. And went in the hospital, got out of the hospital. John took me to Red Lobster. I passed out in the parking lot and fell forward and broke all of my front teeth. It's been a journey, folks. It has been a journey. And, you know, you have those times when you say, why me, Lord? But then why not me? Because it could have been something else, you know? It could have been something else. And I'm very grateful today that I'm here, and I suffer from advanced osteoarthritis as well. I'll be 59 Christmas Eve, if the Lord's will. I walk with a cane, you know, and sometimes you have those days when you want to fit into a pity party. But you pull yourself up by the bootstraps and you say, I'm still here. I'm above ground. I get to do things that other people don't get to do. You have your good days. You have your bad days, you know. Um, but MS has been, it's been a ride because I ended up having to leave my job in 2014. And that was something that I never wanted to do because I love cosmetology. And more than that, I love people. I'm a people person. And I love young people. In my church, I love young people. Um, and my young people that I worked with at the cosmetology schools that I've worked at Dudley's, I've worked at Davidson Community College, and then I worked at Carolina Beauty College, and then I worked for Empire for 14 years. And I'm blessed because I've had testimonies that my young people have shared with me that I saved their lives. You know what I'm saying? That's powerful. How do you save a life? By loving on somebody, you know? And now I don't get to do those things. At least I don't at work. But MS took those things away from me. It took those things away from me. And I really miss it. I really miss it, you know. Um, the medicines that I had to take, um, I have lost a substantial amount of weight. Um, but like I said, it has been a journey. It's been a learning experience. Um, I have a friend that I graduated from high school with. She has MS, and she has a different type. Hers has been progressive. She can't hardly walk. So when you see those things, you have gratitude. You're grateful that, I mean, I pray for her, but mine has not gotten that progressive. And I have had it for 11 years, you know. And so I'm just grateful that I'm at the place that I am at because it is a neurological disease. And I have a wonderful doctor, Dr. Christopher Connolly, that has taken care of me over these years. And he even told me, he said, Miss Stinson, God has healed you. He told me that one time. And I'm just very grateful. I'm very blessed. And I just take life one day, sometimes 1 minute, 1 hour at a time, whichever comes first. You know, I'm just grateful, because there's somebody somewhere else that has something going on that's much worse than what I got going on. So I just choose not to be in the pity party today. And it's just for today. Tomorrow it might be something else. But just for today, I'm grateful. I got gratitude. And I get to say these things. I get to be grateful. So I wanted to share my journey so far with MS from July 30th, 2013 to today, April the 16th, 2024. This is where I'm at, you know. And if you guys want to share, want to ask questions, just let me know. If you, anything, just let me know. Please. I'm unapologetically Charisma Eve. It's been a wonderful evening, and I hope that I've said something that has encouraged somebody, um, has blessed somebody, and I hope that you'll come back next week for the next episode of Unapologetically Charisma Eve. Good night.
Thank you for joining Unapologetically Me, Charisma Eve. Please like, share, and subscribe, and join us every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time for another exciting episode wherever you listen to your podcast.